Let's get into it. I got my Trump shirt on today. Consider this a big Trump update. We got Joe Rogan sitting with a gentleman named Christopher Rufo. The guy is great, very deep guy. Joe Rogan asks him about Trump being prosecuted and what he thinks about all that. And they get into a pretty deep conversation, not just about Trump, but also what that precedent sets, right? And everybody knows it's a very slippery slope when you start trying to remove people from ballots and prosecute them and give them ridiculous fines and all sorts of stuff. So we're using that clip. And after that, we're going to springboard into a conversation about Trump's Supreme Court ruling, because he's back on the ballot, killing it. Then we're going to talk about Super Tuesday, everything that Trump did. We're going to have Tucker Carlson weigh in, the latest on Tucker Carlson talking about Trump. He did that with Lex Friedman. And we're going to talk about Nikki Haley dropping out of the race. Thank God. And then Vivek has a very ominous message about what's going on with the election. And he's not just focusing on Trump, because we all know Vivek focuses on Trump. He's actually focusing on Biden in this clip. So get ready for that. Don't forget about IamCoachColin.com. We got Sold Not For Sale, different variations. We got the new Cancel Hollywood shirts and the new Stop Worshipping Celebrity shirts. Get yours now. Discount code is IamCoachColin. All capital letters, all one word, one L in the name Colin. Let's get started.
Problems. And, if we don't, we lose the great promise. We were promised liberty and equality. Those are the two fundamentals. You don't see, people don't even have an understanding of what that means anymore. And so we have to recover intellectually what has been erased from our discourse. And then we have to fight in the arena of actual political power. We have to take action. We have to change laws. We have to reform bureaucracies. We have to lead institutions. And so every day that I wake up, it's like, that's what I'm doing. What wins are we putting up on the board? Because unless we're having substantial wins in all these little areas, that social credit system that you're talking about, it's just a matter of time.
Ugh. When you look at the current political landscape, particularly these trials, how disturbed are you by what seems to be this acceptance that people have for prosecuting political opponents? Because to me, it's regardless of what you think about Donald Trump as a human being and the polarizing figure that he is, setting the precedent of trying your political opponents to somehow or another either put them in jail or make them seem like complete total criminals in a way that would, for the casual, for the person who's not reading deep into the headlines, for the casual Democrat that sees this Trump real estate thing that just happened where he got fined $365 million, the casuals, I've seen people argue, that, fraud is fraud and this is that and he's a fucking fraud. And then I saw Kevin O'Leary explain it from Shark Tank. He was saying this is what every real estate developer does. They say, my building's worth $400 million. And then someone comes along from the bank and they say, no, it's worth $300 million. We'll give you a loan on $300 million. Or whatever it is, whatever the number.
It's negotiation.
But also, real estate pricing in general is a strange thing to say that's fraud, because people overvalue their property all the time. I mean, it's a standard thing that people do. When someone has a house and it's worth $700,000, they decide to list it as $900,000, and the real estate person says, "Well, it's really pushing it." The guy's like, "That's what I want. I think it's worth $900,000." Like, people have always done weird shit like that. Sure. And then when you have this leftist judge that says that Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million, like, then you just showed all your silly hands. You showed your hand, because that's a crazy thing to say in a place that has the most expensive real estate on earth.
Yeah, and the Mar-a-Lago property is not worth $18 million. I mean, that's absurd.
Isn't it like 18 acres?
Yeah, it's huge. It covers both sides of the little key, or whatever you call it, the little island. But the bigger question is the question that was first raised by the presidency of Richard Nixon, that is now coming to fruition with the presidency and the kind of ex-presidency of Donald Trump. We have a democratic system that favors Trump in the sense that he won in 2016. He's winning the primary right now for Republicans in 2024. But you have a bureaucracy that is dead set against him. And the rhetoric amounts to a very odd claim. They essentially say, we want to keep him off the ballot. We want to put him in prison. We want to bankrupt him so he can't become the president, even if the people support him. We want to deprive the people of making the decision. So you want to take it out of the realm of politics and into the realm of administrative justice or the criminal justice system, right, and adjudicate it in that way on bogus pretexts. I mean, the cases are bogus. And so what you're the question that we're raising is, who actually rules in this country? Is it the American people who get to decide by their vote who represents them in the government? Or is it the permanent bureaucracy that has accumulated so much power? What they can say even to Donald Trump has been one of the most famous people in the world for decades. He's enormously wealthy. He's already been the president of the United States. He's a powerful person. And the message is we can take out anyone that is a threat to the interests of the system that we've built up. And so as someone who, I didn't vote for Trump in 2016, I did vote for him for 2020. I'll absolutely vote for him now in 2024. It is a contest of how we think of our democratic system. And I'm of the mind that the people should decide, not the bureaucracy. And this is a contest where Democrats are saying essentially, we have to destroy democracy in order to save democracy. Democracy has very different meanings in the two usages in that sentence. We have to destroy democracy as we've traditionally known it, electing a president through a vote of the people, in order to save democracy, which is ruled by expert opinion, ruled by the bureaucracy, and essentially left-wing hegemony, left-wing domination over institutions. And as someone who tries to maximize whatever I can do to push forward on these issues politically, it's not lost on me that if they can wipe out someone like Donald Trump, we're all table stakes. Relatively.
Yeah.
And they're going to have no hesitation because once they cross the Rubicon, metaphorically speaking, that's when dissent becomes a crime. And we've already seen that. I reported on the gender ideology in schools and, work with some of the parent groups that we're trying to mobilize, and they all got put on an FBI list. We know this for sure, a FBI counterterrorism list.
Jeez.
That was specifically for parent school board protesters. So if you participate in the democratic process, we'll turn you into a criminal. I hate that with every fiber of my being. And whatever threats come my way, whatever lawsuits, whatever investigations come my way, it's worth it. Take me to prison. Fine, let's do this. Because we have to actually confront these questions head on. We need to have people that have enough courage courage without risk is not courage.
What you're saying is not hyperbole.
No, these are facts.
Yeah.
These are documented facts.
And again, because it's a person like Donald Trump, you get people thinking, like, if you could stop Hitler by any means necessary, wouldn't you stop Hitler? And so they equate Donald Trump with Hitler and go, here you go, this is our modern Hitler. Do you see what Whoopi Goldberg said?
What'd she say?
Whoopi Goldberg said that Biden could arrest all the Republicans and put them in jail. You just need to see how unhinged this kind of thinking is. Well, you know what Joe Biden could do? Joe Biden, you have to see it because it's so
on TV.
crazy.
She said
on television. Find that now, Jamie, because it's so...
Let's look at a scenario where the Supreme Court says, yes, he has all those rights. He is immune from everything. Yeah. You know what Joe Biden could do since he is presently president?
What?
Whoa. He could throw every Republican in jail.
Yeah.
I mean,
Claps.
he could. I mean, no. This is not a good thing. He can go. What this means is he can do anything.
That's not what it means at all.
Yeah, no.
But the fact that she says that so confidently, like if you're willing to let Donald Trump use presidential immunity, that means Joe Biden could just go crazy and arrest all the Republicans. Because that's what that means. No, that's not what that means, even a little bit.
Yeah.
Like you just added a whole bunch of stuff to what that means.
I mean, in fairness, though, the View has to be, if you average out the View hosts, among the dumbest people on television. And it's like they say the thing that people are thinking, but they say it very directly, so they expose whatever truth. But
I don't think some of them are dumb.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think Sunny Hostin's
You think it's
dumb.
deliberate?
I think she's ideologically driven, and they have blinders on, for sure. I don't think Sunny's dumb. But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say. It's not a well thought out. It's like if you had an idea for a premise and it was totally baked and half baked and you went on stage with it and just fucking, there's nothing
just
there.
Go for it. Yeah,
there's nothing there. Sometimes comics do that.
Yeah, and
fun.
the other question is then, is that representative of a big constituency? I think probably yes.
Well, a lot of
MSNBC
people,
viewers are probably also thinking,
I don't even think the MSNBC viewers. I think they're a little bit more sophisticated than that.
Yeah.
This is like low information, blue no matter who, like older housewives who are mad at the world. That's the appeal that Whoopi Goldberg has. Does Whoopi have children?
No idea.
It's interesting too, like really politically motivated older women who don't have children.
Yeah.
They're very specific. Like you can kind of guess the way they think. I would like to see like what the stats are on older post-menopausal women with no children and how they lean politically.
Yeah, college educated. Yeah.
Oh, it is like.
Yeah, no, it's
I bet it's
extreme,
like
yeah.
my fans being male.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. It's like ocean blue. I mean, like the depths of that.
Bananas. Yeah, and because the women that I know that are Republican, they're almost all moms. It's kind of wild. Well, there's a lot of young, like hot Republican women that are social influencers now too, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's fun to see like these trends. You see them in things where people realize like, oh, this is a path to success. I'm going to be a black Trump supporter.
Totally.
You know, they just run with it.
Yeah.
You see a little bit of that. But I feel like with a lot of moms that I know that were like hippies. They were like, and then they had kids and they're like, fuck this, like immediately.
The shot's fired. This guy just fired a shot at me. Jeez, black Trump supporters. Like they're not real. They're not real. They just realize it's a path to success. It kind of is though, you know, because once you start having conservative values, you stop being lazy, you stop looking for handouts, you start making your own businesses, you start using capitalism to your advantage, you stop feeling oppressed, you shake off the shackles, and you get to become a man. It kind of is a path to success in reality. You know, when you're young and you're all liberal, you know, like it's almost like you're living life in a starving artist mode, you know, like, oh, if I get the money, then I sold out. Nah, man, I'm not about that. And then you get some conservative values. You're like, well, I want to be a husband and a father. I need money to do that. And all of a sudden your life's off to the races. It's fantastic. They talked about a bunch of different stuff in here. Now, right away, you know, keep away people's decision. That's exactly what they were trying to do when they took Trump off the ballot. They were trying to make it so the people didn't have the decision. None of this has anything to do with fraud in real estate or did he give money to this woman or what did he say to her? It has nothing to do with that. Nothing. Oh, get him off the ballot. Insurrection. It has nothing to do with that. It all has to do with how can we make people not want to vote for him or actually make it so people can't vote for him. They went for how can we make people not want to vote for him, and it didn't work. It just made him bigger and bigger and bigger and more popular. And then they went, okay, now we have to make it so they can't vote for him. And I made videos about this with the wife, and I've talked about this at length. It's the worst thing possible to do that because so many people will feel disenfranchised. So many people in Colorado and all these places are just going to be like, oh, well, I can't vote for my guy. Who do I get to vote for? Well, whoever we tell you can. And then what kind of country do you live in at that point? It was such a bad, I'm so glad we're about to cover this stuff. But I just want to go into a few more things before I play these next clips. Who really rules the country? Christopher brought up a really good question. When you see that type of stuff happen, who actually rules? When I see that happen, I go, oh, there's one party that is actually trying to bully its way to remain in power. That's what it looks like to me, you know, because everybody talks about Trump not giving up the presidency right away, but he did. He didn't stay in the White House and say, whoa, where's all my generals and everybody assemble? He didn't do any of that. He said to, on a microphone, march peacefully and patriotically, and then just kind of left. And he's maintained that he didn't lose, but he did leave. He did allow the other guy to step into the position. So it's like, you know what I mean? I don't know. I always find that so bogus when you look at the whole thing. And he didn't cause an insurrection. That's not an insurrection. And then I don't even want to get, I'm going to make a playlist of all the videos I've done on J6 because there's so much information. There's so much. I should put all of that into one video because it's a crazy amount of information. I'm actually going to do that. And then the last thing, what was the last thing here? If you stand up for the process, if you stand up for the democratic process, you go to jail. If you participate in the democratic process, you go to jail. That was something else that he said. Now, I couldn't find anything to what he was talking about in regards to parents getting put on FBI watch lists. But there was the whole thing of them being branded as domestic terrorists, and that would put you on an FBI watch list. Just that's just automatic kind of thing. So that did happen. They weren't branded as that, but they were called that by school boards. Later, they had to apologize They withdrew what they said. It was a whole crazy thing. So it's like, you can't vote for the guy you want. You can't participate in trying to have your kids learn the things that you think they should learn or not learn. It's interesting what the Democrats are putting in place currently. It's really, really interesting. And in my opinion, it's the makings of a communist system. It's coming to that. It's not there. You know, people who say it's full-blown communism. No, it's not full-blown. No. But it's getting close. It's on the road. It's definitely on the road. It's not it's not quite there, but it's definitely on the road to it. So let's get into what actually happened, because some great things happened for the country and for the world. Is there was a Supreme Court ruling. And I'm going to get into that with you guys. I got a bunch of clips here, about 4 or 5 clips. It also consists of Trump talking about it a little bit. He has some words for Biden. And then we're going to hear what the judges' thoughts were as well. So there's a whole bunch to it. Let's get into it.
All right, we just got the breaking news. Thank you for being with us here on MSNBC. The Supreme Court issuing a ruling on the Colorado ballot case. I want to go straight to Ken Delanian, who is outside the Supreme Court with this decision. Ken, what do we know?
Good morning, Anna. We've learned that it was a 9-0 decision ruling that Donald Trump can be on the ballot in Colorado and other states. Justices during the oral argument seemed very skeptical of the idea that one state could decide for the nation whether Donald Trump was an insurrectionist and was therefore disqualified under this 150-year-old provision. Now we know that there was not a single justice who held that view, so there were no dissents to this 9-0 decision ruling that Donald Trump can remain on the ballot in Colorado as voters go to the polls tomorrow during Super Tuesday, and also in Maine, where there had been a decision to disqualify him from the ballot. And this ruling, we understand, has the effect of prohibiting other states from attempting to do so. And that really reflects what we heard from both liberal and conservative justices during the oral arguments, Anna. For example, Elena Kagan confronting the plaintiffs, essentially saying, your problem here is that you're arguing that one state can decide for the nation who can be president, and no justice was willing to go along with that.
Exactly. I wanted that straight from MSNBC's mouth. They had to report on it. I love when they have to report on things like that. They can't spin it. They can't say this or that. It's like, no, you just got to give us the straight goods. Very good to hear. And here's the thing. When it goes back to what Christopher was talking about, you know, the fact of participating in the whole process, you know, taking away people's decisions. He won Colorado. Colorado was like, no, you can't vote for him. No, you shouldn't be able to vote for him. The second they lift it, the guy wins Colorado. So that means the whole time in that place, people did want to vote for him. So who were these people in the government? What interests were they operating in? It obviously wasn't the American people. Obviously, they're citizens in Colorado. Those weren't the people they were listening to. There was some other entity, some other objective that they were working towards. Because if they just turned to the people and said, should we allow this guy to be voted for? The people would have said yes. And they did say yes. He won right away. So let's go deeper into this whole thing. We're going to start hearing more about the inner workings of how this decision was made, because I think that's important.
Today, the Supreme Court rejected a decision by Colorado's Supreme Court to kick former President Donald Trump off the 2024 ballot, returning him to the ballot in that state as well as in other states that had made preemptive moves to kick him out of the 2024 contest. The unsigned order found that only Congress and not individual states are eligible to disqualify candidates from federal office under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, known colloquially as the Insurrection Clause or the Disqualification Clause. In an unsigned order, all 9 justices affirmed that the judgment of the Colorado Supreme Court cannot stand and ordered him to be returned to the ballot, which was confirmed by Colorado's Secretary of State minutes after the decision. Trump took to his Truth Social account within minutes of the ruling to crow, "Big win for America." The ruling was issued not from the bench, since the court doesn't return to proceedings until March 15th. 15th. However, it's an indication that the ruling came the day before the Super Tuesday primary contests, that this decision needed to take place in order for Trump to have a fair participation in a contest that takes up roughly a third of the total delegates in the Republican primary. Trump has already won almost every single nominating contest, with second place presidential candidate Nikki Haley only winning in deep blue Washington, D.C. on Sunday night. The insurrection clause, Colorado Supreme Court argued, barred Trump from holding office since he had fomented an insurrection rebellion against the U.S. in the actions that led up to the January 6th Capitol riot. That clause was a Civil War-era amendment meant to bar Confederate officers from holding office after they had fomented a rebellion against the Union. Special Counsel Jack Smith indicted Trump last August for his attempts to overturn the election, which led to the Capitol riot, and the High Court is currently hearing an appeal for that case in April, as Trump's lawyers have argued that he is immune from criminal prosecution since his activities fell within the outer perimeter of his official duties. That very same month, the Supreme Court justices will also consider an appeal from one of the more than 1,200 defendants charged in the Capitol riot, and a decision in that case could end up reversing
Wow. Here, let me play that.
some previous rulings against defendants as well as.
Good Lord, 1,200 guys. That is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. 12. If they said who the agents were in the crowd, I could kind of be like, okay, well, then they're talking about both sides and everything involved. They won't even say whether or not they know agents were there. And they're just like 1,200 people. What if all the key people who did the breaking in were... Oh my gosh. It's just so ridiculous. So ridiculous. Yeah, so it was a 9-0. The judges, the reasoning for this, and I got another video on this. You actually get to hear their reasoning and what some of them actually thought about this whole thing. But it's so good to hear that that they made this decision. Because why should Colorado? I think I have the clip where the actual woman in charge who's trying to have this done, she just looks so MK Ultra. It's crazy. But why should they have the decision to do that? Why should it be taken out of the people's hands? I don't even understand how that's a thing. There should be certain things, and I know it sounds so ridiculous, but there should be certain things where they have to actually turn to the people and say, what do you want? Why doesn't that happen even once with anything? You ever ask yourself that? Why doesn't your government ever have to, your state government, why don't they ever have to come to you and say, is this what you want? Never. Go on TV. Hey, we need everybody to tell us if they want this. Something, especially something as big as taking someone off the ballot. Man, it's so ridiculous. Here, I got another clip. This goes a little deeper into the whole situation. I know I'm showing you a lot about this decision, and I know it's just like a quick decision and you shouldn't want to know more, but to know what the judges actually thought and what they were saying, why they came to this decision, is really important. So let's get into that. Switch up here.
We begin with a decision from the nation's highest court clarifying who is eligible to run for the nation's highest office. The Supreme Court on Monday rejected efforts in Colorado to disqualify former President Donald Trump from the primary ballot. Voters in several states have argued Trump's actions on January 6, 2021 violated the so-called insurrection clause of the 14th Amendment. But the justices found that while states can block candidates for state office, only Congress has the power to disqualify candidates for federal office. Though Colorado courts had found former President Trump participated in an insurrection, the Supreme Court did not address that question. CBS News chief election and campaign correspondent Robert Costa reports.
A crucial decision today with sweeping political consequences. The High Court ruling that former President Donald Trump cannot be removed from Colorado's ballot due to the state court's view that he stoked the January 6 insurrection.
You cannot take somebody out of a race. The voters can take the person out of the race very quickly, but a court shouldn't be doing that.
With this ruling, 2 other states also had their efforts to remove the former president stall. 3 justices, in a separate concurring opinion, said allowing the Colorado measure to go forward would, we agree, create a chaotic state-by-state patchwork. Amid a tense political landscape, Justice Amy Coney Barrett also urged Americans to see unity from the unanimous decision. Writing, in this circumstance, writings on the court should turn the national temperature down, not up. Colorado's Democratic Secretary of State offered sharp criticism of the decision.
I do believe that states should be able, under our Constitution, to bar oath-breaking insurrectionists.
The ruling comes a day before Super Tuesday, the biggest primary election day of the season, when voters in 15 states, including Colorado, head to the polls. And Trump's legal hurdles continue to pile up as the Supreme Court weighs another decision next month.
I hope that the justices, because they'll be working on some other cases, but one in particular, presidents have to be given total immunity. They have to be allowed to do their job.
I'll stop it there because I actually have him talking about that a little more, but very interesting to hear what the judges thought. Because, a lot of people kind of just think, oh, well, these Republican judges and that's it. But they're actually pretty clear thinking on this topic. I gotta say, that one judge saying in the circumstances, writing on the courts should be should bring the national temperature down, not up. Like, pretty clear thinking, and saying that it would have this crazy chaotic patchwork going on. It's so true. If you just started letting that go on, how many states would just be like, Biden's off the ballot. And then it would just be like governments pretty much deciding, well, 18 states have decided to put Trump on the ballot. 25 states have taken Biden off the ballot. It would just get crazy. It would get ridiculous. And essentially it would just be the government, even though it's, state government, it would still be the government making the decisions. You can't have that. You just can't. So we're going to go on. Now we're going to hear Trump and what he thinks about this whole thing. And he's going to talk a little bit about immunity as well, because that's something that he's been very focused on. Let's go.
Well, thank you very much. I want to start by thanking the Supreme Court for its unanimous decision today. It was a very important decision. We're very well crafted, and I think it will go a long way toward bringing our country together, which our country needs. And they worked long, they worked hard, and frankly, they worked very quickly on something that will be spoken about 100 years from now and 200 years from now. Extremely important. Essentially, you cannot take somebody out of a race because an opponent would like to have it that way. And it has nothing to do with the fact that it's the leading candidate, whether it was the leading candidate or a candidate that was well down on the totem pole. You cannot take somebody out of a race. The voters can take the person out of the race very quickly, but a court shouldn't be doing that, and the Supreme Court saw that very well. And I really do believe that will be a unifying factor, because while most states were thrilled to have me, there were some that didn't, and they didn't want that for political reasons. They didn't want that because of poll numbers, because the poll numbers are very good. We're beating President Biden in almost every poll. New York Times came out yesterday with a very big poll for us. So they didn't like that, and you can't do that. You can't do what they tried to do. And hopefully Colorado, as an example, will unify. I know there's tremendous support. They brought our support up very strong in Colorado, because people in Colorado thought that was a terrible thing that they did. And while we're on the subject, and another thing that will be coming up very soon will be immunity for a president, and not immunity for me, but for any president. If a president doesn't have full immunity, you really don't have a president, because nobody that is serving in that office will have the courage to make, in many cases, what would be the right decision, or it could be the wrong decision. It could be, in some cases, the wrong decision, but they have to make decisions, and they have to make them free of all terror that can be rained upon them when they leave office or even before they leave office. And some decisions are very tough. I can tell you that as a president, that some decisions to make are very tough. I took out ISIS, and I took out some very big people from the standpoint of a different part of the world.
I think he's talking about that general. You guys remember when he just like take out that general? Boom, I think it was an Iranian general. Oh man. You know, Biden did something similar. He gave Iran $6 billion. Same thing, basically. Same thing. Same impact. Absolutely ridiculous. But here's the thing with the whole conversation about immunity. You know, Whoopi Goldberg, she had that little clip where she's saying, and I'm going to show you another clip. Trump has some choice words for Joe Biden right now. Very, very interesting. But Whoopi Goldberg is talking about how bad immunity would be. Let me tell you how badly Joe Biden needs presidential immunity after he leaves office. What? Are you kidding me? Oh my God. Secret Service, immunity, he needs all that. All that. For what he's done? I've heard it's so rare to not hear somebody say that it's a type of treason. The border's open. The border's open. He could close it. And he's like, nah, not until you give me 20, 50 billion dollars. I'll close the border when you send 50 billion to Ukraine. What are you talking about? I need my 10%. Send it over. Like, what are you saying right now? It's absolutely ridiculous. He's going to leave office. You know, like Obama entered office worth like 2 million and he left worth like 150 million. And you're like, that's gross. Joe Biden's going to leave office worth $19 billion. I'm kidding, of course. Let's listen to what Trump has to say directly to Biden.
Doing is fighting violent crime. And that would lead me to the end. I will say that President Biden, number one, stop weaponization. Fight your fight yourself. Don't use prosecutors and judges to go after your opponent, to try and damage your opponent so you can win an election. Our country is much bigger than that. The other thing I say to President Biden, close the borders now. This is not sustainable for our country. It's not sustainable for our cities. Our country is under siege. This is a violent thing that you've done. And many people are dying. Many people are dying. They die on the trip up. They die going through the border. And they die in our country. But many of the people coming up are from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums. Many are terrorists. You see it. Many are terrorists. And I believe the real number that we have right now is probably closer to 15 million people. And by the time the term ends, I believe the president's term ends, I believe you'll be at close to 20 million people. That's almost larger than any state in the union. Our country, it is not sustainable. Many of these people are tough. Many of these people are bad. They come from some of the roughest countries in the world and some of the roughest prisons. We have prisons in the Congo, in Africa, coming. We have people coming from all parts of the Middle East. They're coming from Yemen, and yet you are bombing Yemen. You have to stop. You have to close the border. You have absolute authorization. You don't need Congress. I had the safest border in the history of our country, and I didn't use Congress for it. And then I built hundreds of miles of wall, and the reason I built it and how I built it was I considered it an invasion of our country, and I took the money from the military, and the Army Corps of Engineers did it with me, and we did a great job. And we had the safest border we've ever had, and now we have the most unsafe border anywhere in the world at any time. There's never been a border like this at any country, anywhere in the world. They would have fought with sticks and stones to stop the horrible situation that's occurring. Our people can't stand it, and the people coming in really can't stand it because they're dying. Many are dying on the trip up, and they're dying in the country. And also, many of the people are criminals, and they're doing tremendous harm. I call it migrant crime. It's migrant crime. It's a new category of crime. They're hurting our country horribly, and we've become a laughing stock all over the world. So I say respectfully to President Biden, you have the authorization right now. I did it. I didn't go to Congress and say, do I have the right to close? I fought Congress on it. Close the borders. You can do it right now. You have everything. Use my policies. My policies were great. Everybody said it. Use my policies. So just to finish, I have great respect for the Supreme Court, and I want to just thank them for working so quickly and so diligently and so brilliantly. And again, this is a unifying factor. Everybody now is together, and they can go after me as a politician. They can go after me with votes, but they're not going to go after me with that kind of lawsuit that takes somebody out of a race who's leading in this case, but even if the person wasn't leading. And I want to thank you all for being here. Do we have any?
Wow. Very, very interesting. I made another video talking about Trump, and he was talking about Biden, and he had the chance to kind of make fun of him at one point, and he didn't. And even in this, as he's triumphant, this ruling is great for him, great for his campaign, but you hear him calling Joe Biden President Biden. It's usually it's Crooked Joe. Usually, no matter what, no matter where he is, it's Crooked Joe. This time, it's President Biden. He's basically pleading with him. He's basically saying, please, like, you got to do these things. And then he's explaining how to do it. So it's not even like he's not even taking the opportunity to make fun of the guy, to ridicule him, to put himself above Biden. He's not doing any of that. He's actually being respectful. He's kind of being very humble. He's pleading with him, explaining how to secure the border. You know, he took the money from the military, which, why can't he do that now? It's even worse than before. Biden can obviously do exactly what Trump just said and take the money from the military, designate it as an invasion, take the money from the military. That's exactly what Abbott did. Abbott looked at the same law that I think Trump is talking about. He said that this is an invasion and then took the steps with the containers and the barbed wire and everything and secured his part of the border. Very interesting. And then at the end, he says, use my policies. That's like a humble brag. That's like a little jab. He's like, remember those policies that you undid? Use those. Bring those back. But here's the thing about those policies that Joe Biden undid. I think he did it within his first 48 hours in office. He undid everything Trump did in regards to the border, right? Everything except actually tearing the wall down. The thing about that is, if he goes back and reinstates any of those, he is going to have such an issue with the Democratic Party, because they've already decided that when Trump did that, it was the most hurtful thing you could do. It was xenophobic. It was un-American, you name it. So now if Joe Biden goes back and does those same things that Trump did, they will, who knows what they'll do. They're already treating him not the best. Honestly, really not. Besides Gavin Newsom being like, Joe Biden is Jesus Christ himself, I swear to God. Like, besides that, they're not treating him that well in the news. Like, it's getting iffy. It's getting very iffy. And it's kind of playing to what Joe Rogan has been saying, how he doesn't think that they're going to run Biden. So he can't even go back and do those things, even if he wanted to. Not to mention that he has no control. You know what I mean? It's weekend at Bernie's, folks. It's weekend at Bernie's. And we have one more Trump talking about how he wants to win. A more respectful Trump. A humble, calm Trump is dangerous. Dangerous. Like, you want him all hot-headed, because then you're like, oh, look at this guy. If he starts getting calm like this, I don't know. It's over.
A lot of people that were agnostic to politics in general see these legal cases against you. They see how life was back under a Trump administration. Do you think that's the key to pull some of these independent voters into this next election, seeing that these legal cases are unfair, they have no merit, and also the poll numbers and their life before Trump?
It's such an interesting question, because historically a thing like what I've been going through would have hurt a political party or a political candidate terrifically. You wouldn't even run. You wouldn't be able to run. You'd get out. This has happened over many years, many times. In this case, I mean, the polls show that I'm much more popular than I was before weaponization. It's been weaponized like it's never been. This is for third world countries. This isn't for us. Biden ought to drop all of these things. And frankly, he may do better if he does, because people would say, wow, that was very reasonable. Look, they're all, the state, the city, and the federal, they're all coordinated. Fannie Willis's lover spent hours and hours at the White House, I guess with White House counsel and with DOJ, plotting out this plan. Nobody talks about that. They're all coordinated with the White House. It's weaponization. Never been done in this country. It's been done in third world countries, banana republics, never in this country. So I really believe what they should do is really go all the way, go out and stop all of this nonsense. They're nonsense cases, and everybody sees it. You just look at Atlanta. It's such an embarrassment to Georgia, what's happening there. But Jack Smith, I don't think, is any better. Letitia James is terrible. She campaigned on, I will get Trump, and then it goes before a Trump-hating judge. I mean, the whole thing is a rigged deal, and the public understands it. I'm lucky that I'm able to explain it to the public, because if you weren't able to explain it, the public wouldn't know. They'd believe what they see. So I don't want to win this way. Look, I want to win based on my policies are better. We're going to cut taxes. We're going to get interest rates down. You're going to be able to buy homes again. I mean, you can't buy a home today. The interest rates are so high. I want to win on safe borders. I want to stop wars. I want to stop the war in Ukraine with Russia. I want to stop what's happening in Israel. Israel would have never been attacked if I were president. Ukraine would have never, ever been attacked if I was president. You wouldn't have had inflation. Inflation was caused by high energy prices. I had low energy prices. I would have kept them there very easily. And it probably maybe caused the war with Ukraine, because Putin became rich all of a sudden. It went up so much, and I watched President Biden talking about Putin. Putin became very rich because at $100 a barrel, he's got so much money to fight a war. At $40 a barrel, he doesn't have the money to fight a war.
Wow. When Trump gets like this is more dangerous to the establishment. I have to say, I like the way he's like, I want to win on closed borders. I want to win on border security. Like, I don't want to win like this. Like, this is getting very, very interesting. If he keeps up this, you know, like, I don't know. It's dangerous. It's dangerous to Biden, because all Biden has right now is like, look at this goof. Look how he acts. If he tones it down and he's still Trump and he starts focusing on policies, when Trump explains what he can do in regards to the issues that are being faced, Americans, there's been polls that have happened. The American people have decided that the border is the top priority, top above the economy. So it goes border, economy, and I forget what's third, but those are the top two. If he just sits back and explains how he's going to fix that, I don't know, man. I don't see any clear thinking person not voting for him at that point. Because just now, even when he explained the Putin situation, like as much as people think he just talks a lot of shit, he really understands what's going on. A country really is a business. The economy is literally businesses. It's like a one big company and there's a bunch of smaller companies underneath. You know what I mean? It's like an LLC. It's like a holding company, and there's a bunch of other companies that are inside the holding company. So he understands how that works. He has that. He's literally been running that type of thing for almost, I mean, let's be real, almost 100 years. Like half 100. That's quite a bit of time. Most of these politicians have zero business experience. Now, Joe Rogan was talking about Kevin O'Leary. I've played this clip before, but I just want to give context to the clip that we actually watched at the beginning. He was talking about Kevin O'Leary and how he explained what's going on with Trump. I'm just going to play that again for you guys real quick, just a minute.
My business records. I know what a square foot looks like. I know what I can ask for and what I have the money to support. So I wonder to what extent that really is true. But on the second point, wouldn't there be many companies who would not want to do business or loan money to people like yourself or investors if they know that they can get away with fraud and there's no recourse to protect them?
Excuse me, what fraud? This is not about Trump anymore. When you get a developer that builds a building and he says it's worth $400 million and he wants to borrow $200 million from a bank, which happens every day, everywhere on earth, including every American city, every developer is an entrepreneur. They shine the light on their building and they say it's worth 400. The bank does its own due diligence, as was done in this case, because they're very good at it. The banks are very good, and they say, no, it's worth 300. We're only going to loan you 150 million. That haggling has gone on for decades. That's how it works. And then in this case, even the bank that was supposedly defrauded testified and said, we didn't lose anything. We want to do business with this guy again. We'd like to, but the judge said, no. Let's penalize this developer for $355 million. And if we're going to do that, let's penalize all the developers all across America. They've all done the same thing. All of them should go to jail, and we should stop building buildings. That's what the message is from New York. Even the governor herself is concerned about what this looks like to investors all around the world. It's not just...
I'm never going to invest in New York. That's for sure. Never, ever. Not with something like this going on. Because, I often have access to, hundreds of millions of dollars, and I buy buildings and stuff, obviously. But that was what he was talking about when he heard Kevin O'Leary explaining it. Basically, this happens all the time. And here's the thing. When have maybe you have a friend that sold a house, and your friend said, I put 5,000 into a new washroom. We put 15,000 into the kitchen. The property, it's gone up in price by 50 grand. I put all this money in, this, that. We redid this, we repainted that. And then, the house that he had for 600,000, he sells it for 800,000. Because he's like, I put work into this, my labor, my time. I keep the house good. I'm selling it. I want more money. And then the government comes around, some trumped up judge, jacked up judge, comes in and says, no. We're actually, listen, the family's happy with the house and it's money well spent to them. The lenders are happy. The real estate agents, the lenders, everybody's happy. But you sold this house for $200,000 more, and it was only worth $50,000 more. Okay, so we're giving you a fine of $2 million. When have you ever heard that happening? It doesn't happen. People do this all the time. I've had so many arguments with people in comment sections and stuff. This is a regular thing that happens not just in real estate, in sales. It is a regular thing for you to look at something and be like, I'm selling it for this much. I don't know, I paid this much, it's worth this much to me, it's going to take me this long to sell it, I think it's worth this much. And then you get fined for that? No. This is obviously nonsense, obviously. Now, we're moving on to Super Tuesday, something that a lot of people maybe didn't hear about because, conveniently, that was the day Instagram and Facebook were down. Oh, funny how that works. It even took me 4 hours to upload a video to YouTube on that day. Interesting. Very interesting. I don't know why. Was it because Trump was sweeping stuff up? Was he sweeping stuff up? I don't know. Maybe. Just putting it out there. Let's start with this first video. Trump giving his thoughts, and then we'll just pretty much it's going to be like a timeline of what actually took place.
Hello, everyone. A very important election day is coming up on March 5th. It's called Super Tuesday. It's big stuff. And it's the single most important primary day of the year. 15 states will have their chance to get out and vote. If every single conservative, Republican, and Trump supporter in these states shows up on Super Tuesday, we will be very close to finished with this primary contest. Republicans will then be able to focus all of our energy, time, and resources on defeating crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our country. That'll take place on November 5th. So don't stay home from Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, to California, Colorado, and Maine. Get everyone you know to the polls. And if you're in Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, or Texas, we need your vote. So get out and vote. Let's make this something really special. We want to send the signal that we're coming like a freight train. And to everyone in Utah, Vermont, and Virginia, do not be complacent. Please go and vote. If you cast your ballot on or before March 5th, you will have done your part to ensure that we lock down this nomination quickly, and then we will take the fight straight to Crooked Joe from now until November 5th. We want to get out there, we want to fight, and we want to be strong and smart, and we want to take our country back. We want to make America great again. Thank you very much. Hello to everyone in Georgia, Hawaii, Mississippi, and Washington State. A very important election is coming up on March 12th. Each of you is going to have the opportunity to help us bring this primary to a quick and victorious win. We have to win, and it has to be decisive. We want to win by a lot because we want to send the signal on November 5th. We're taking back our country. Do not stay home, get out. Everyone has to get out and vote. We want to send that signal loud and clear and strong. We want to win with big margins. With your help, we will capture the nomination, and Republicans will then be able to focus all of our energy and resources on defeating Crooked Joe Biden on November 5th. Remember, he's the worst president in the history of our country.
That's the Trump I'm used to seeing. Remember, he's the worst. Oh man, it's true. It's really true. It's really true. And all those places that he mentioned, except for the places where he's talking about March 12th, that's still to be seen. But every place that he was talking about for Super Tuesday, he won all of them except for, let me pull that over here for you guys. Every single place except for Vermont, I believe. I think that was the only place that Nikki Haley won. He took Texas, California. Yeah, see? Surprise victory. So that was the only place that she took. She ended up taking Vermont. And that was it. I'm sure she thought she'd take a lot more, but she didn't. But yeah, Trump swept it up. Swept it up. Minnesota, Massachusetts, Alabama, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Colorado, Maine. He swept it up. He swept it up, man. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing to see. That's how it should be. Let's go. Let's go. And on the 12th, those other places that he mentioned, I think it's just going to be a sweep, especially since Nikki Haley has dropped out of the race, but we'll talk about that a little more. And then I just wanted to play this little video that I found just about how voters are feeling in regards to Biden and Trump and just what they remember and how they're feeling. And yeah, it's kind of interesting. Let's go.
Comparing two presidents to former president or a former president and a president, you're talking about comparing two presidencies. So we asked people to look back. How do you remember the economy was under Donald Trump? And what we find is that 2/3 of voters say they remember that economy as being good. Then you compare that to the current rating of the economy, and their memory of under the Trump years is much higher than that, and that's advantaging former President Trump right now. What's interesting about this too, Marie, is that if you go back to the polling from 2018, from 2019, people did in fact rate the economy as good, but they subsequently had lower ratings of the economy after the pandemic, after the shutdown. So it appears that it's that first part that's really dominating in their memory right now. And then there's this second part of it that I want to show you. And that is when we talk about prices, when we talk about inflation, how does that play out? And for that, I'm going to show you a couple of things. One is, do they have a vision for the country? And that's important because if these are uncertain times, people want a roadmap. They want to know where things are going. And in that case, Joe Biden is at 50-50, yes and no, but Donald Trump has a higher number saying he has a vision for the country. And so all of those things go into not just what we're watching Super Tuesday, but also what we're watching as the State of the Union unfolds later this week, Murray.
I just wanted to play that really quickly just so people kind of see what's going on, so people understand that the economy was much better under Trump. That's the main thing that black people are talking. The black vote, that's the main thing they're concentrating on. They're like, things were better. And when they say things, they mean the economy. And then when we talk about a vision for Trump is constantly talking about his vision for America. I mean, literally, MAGA, Make America Great Again, is him talking about his vision for the country. When have you ever heard Biden talk about his vision for the country? For those 50% of people that said yes, they're just saying yes because. That's it. They're just like, yes, he does. I'm praying that he does. That's it. Because when have you ever heard him talk about it? When have you ever heard him be like, this is my vision for the country, the next 4 years? When has he ever said that? He ain't thinking about that. He's thinking about the next 4 days, if that. He's not thinking about listen, bias, of course, bias. Not really a Biden fan. Can you guess? Not really a Biden fan? Just saying. Now we're going to move on to Tucker Carlson talking about Trump, talking about why he's popular, and talking about why it was so egregious that he was taken off the ballot and things like that. Let's get into it.
Case of Trump, I know the answer there. They raided Mar-a-Lago. They indicted him on bullshit charges. And I felt that in myself too. Even I was like, come on. Whatever you think of Trump. And I agreed with his immigration views. And I really like Trump personally. I think he's hilarious and interesting, which he is. But it's like, okay, there are a lot of people in this country. Let's get some, let's have at very least, let's have a real debate. The second, messed up your camera, sir. Sorry, I'm getting excited. But the second they raided Mar-a-Lago on a documents charge, as someone from DC, I was like, I know a lot about classification and all that stuff and been around it a lot. That's so absurd that I was like, now it's not about Trump. It's about our system continuing. Like, if you can take out a presidential candidate on a fake charge, use the justice system to take the guy out of the race, then we don't have a representative democracy anymore. And I think a lot of Republican voters felt that way. If they hadn't indicted him, I'm not sure he would be the nominee. I really don't think he would be.
So now a vote for Trump is a kind of fuck you to the system.
Or an expression of your desire to keep the system that we had, which is one where voters get to decide. Prosecutors don't get to decide. Look, they told us for 4 years that Trump was like a super criminal or something. I've actually been friends with some super criminals. I'm a little less judgy than most. So I didn't discount the possibility that he had, I don't know, he's in the real estate business in New York in the 70s. Like, did he kill someone? I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I'm not joking. And I'm not for killing people, but like, anything's possible.
It's good that you took a stand on that.
Yeah. No, I'm not joking.
Yeah.
I was like, well, who knows,
Real estate.
And I didn't know. And what they came up with was a documents charge? Are you joking? And then the sitting president has the same documents violation, but he's fine. It's like, it's just crazy this is happening in front of all of us. And then it becomes like, at that point, it's not about Joe Biden. It's not about Donald Trump. It's about preserving a system which has worked not perfectly, but pretty freaking well for 250 years. I know you don't like Trump. I get it. Let's not destroy that system. Like, we can handle another 4 years of Trump. I think we can. So I'll calm down. What we can't handle is a country whose political system is run by the Justice Department. Like, that is just, you're freaking Ecuador at that point.
Very, very true. It's funny. Everybody's falling on that same thing, even if you're not a Trump supporter. Like Kevin O'Leary, when he's talking about it, he says it's not about Trump, but he knows that the things that are happening are terrible. And it's terrible that it's happening to Trump, but it's terrible that it happens to anybody, because it's not a reflection of Trump. All these things, and that's the thing I don't think they understand. Like Lex was like, a vote for Trump is like an FU to the system. It's always been that. I don't think they understand that these things that they're doing reflect them way more than they reflect Trump. It's like, oh man, he said that property was worth more. Yeah, we're gonna put him in jail. Oh, what did he say? He gave a speech January 6th. We're gonna put him in jail. It's like, oh, you're maniacs. That's what didn't realize. Saw the suit and everything that you had on. Thought you were just a elected official. Maniac. Didn't realize. Okay, that's why John Lennon said the world's run by psychopaths. Oh, okay, I get it now. Okay, thanks for clicking that in for me there. Very interesting. That was the most recent interview that Tucker did with Lex Friedman. Long interview, great interview. Really don't like Lex's voice. Sounds so boring, like Ben Stein. You remember Ben Stein? Bueller. That's what he sounds like to me. But guy does a great interview. I gotta say, go look it up. We're moving on to Nikki Haley and her bowing out speech. Graceful, I might add. Very graceful, the way she bows out. Some people might not think so, but I liked what she had to say. Let me play this.
Good morning. Just over a year ago, I launched my campaign for president. When I began, I said the campaign was grounded in my love for our country. Just last week, my mother, a first-generation immigrant, got to vote for her daughter for president. Only in America. I am filled with the gratitude for the outpouring of support we've received from all across our great country. But the time has now come to suspend my campaign. I said I wanted Americans to have their voices heard. I have done that. I have no regrets. And although I will no longer be a candidate, I will not stop using my voice for the things I believe in. Our national debt will eventually crush our economy. A smaller federal government is not only necessary for our freedom, it is necessary for our survival. The road to socialism is the road to ruin for America. Our Congress is dysfunctional and only getting worse. It is filled with followers, not leaders.
Wow. You know, there's a whole bunch more to it. It's a 10-minute speech. I'm not playing it 10. I'm not listening. I like what she had to say. I'm not listening to Nikki Haley for 10 minutes. I can tell you that much. But that first minute, 24 seconds, that's good, man. Her mom got to vote for her. That's fantastic. I think that's great. You know, like I do comedy. I want my mom to see me, you know, do a stand-up set, even though it's going to be like the most vulgar thing she's ever heard me say. And that's a beautiful thing. And she's right. You know, bringing up socialism. I didn't think she'd bring that up. I mean, you know, I've said it. I'm sure many people have said it. Maybe even you're thinking it. Like, she seems like a Trojan horse. Seems like a Democrat in disguise. But then she brings that up, and I think that's pretty decent of her. Talking about a smaller government. That's stuff that Vivek has been talking about. Vivek wants to get rid of like 75% of the bureaucrats. And that's something she's bringing up as well. It's like, nice. And then talking about Congress being dysfunctional, filled with followers and not leaders. Yeah, you know. She didn't, you know, it's not the greatest thing. It's not the most charismatic thing, but she didn't say anything factually incorrect, you know. The only thing I didn't like is what she said here in regards to Donald Trump here.
It is now up to Donald Trump to earn the votes of those in our party and beyond it who did not support him. And I hope he does that. At its best, politics is about bringing people into your cause, not turning them away. And our conservative cause badly needs more people. This is now his time for choosing. I end my campaign with the same words I began it, from the book of Joshua.
Adios, amigos. That's what she says. She goes, adios, amigos. And she goes like this, and she just does a backflip off stage. Seriously, she does. I just don't want to play it for you guys. But, you know, she's talking about Trump getting the voters. That is the moment that you're supposed to endorse him. You know, that he's the only person left now. It's him versus Biden. That's what it's going to be, because Lord knows who Biden's even running against in all these states and all this Super Tuesday. I think someone named Williamson, Amy Williamson or something like that. I have no idea. But this is the moment where you're supposed to endorse him. All of the voters who were going for you and they liked you, that's when you're supposed to say, guys, this is the guy. That's what you're supposed to do. The way Vivek did it, the way DeSantis did it. Actually, I don't know if DeSantis did. I feel like he did. But you're supposed to endorse. That's what you're supposed to do. You know, that's the kind thing to do, not just for Donald Trump, but for the people who believed in you. Because when you minus yourself from a campaign, you're kind of leaving those people stranded. And it's always up to them who they're going to go for, but you should at least leave them with that. Like, hey, I'm leaving, and I know that puts you in a tough spot, but I think this is the next best thing. This guy right here. I just wish she did that. But otherwise, nice speech. She had a nice little speech. I know it's a 10-minute speech, and I only played 1 minute and 40 seconds of it. But those are the parts I found to be very nice. Just wish that she endorsed Trump. She should have. Now, we're going to move on. Vivek talking about the election and what he thinks is about to go on. Very interesting. Let's go.
Obvious for a couple of months now. Donald Trump is going to be the Republican nominee for U.S. president. That's obvious to me, obvious to everybody else. Now, here's the part that's obvious to me, but seems less obvious to the rest of the media. Actually, I think it's obvious to them, too. They're just hiding it. Joe Biden is not going to be the nominee from the Democratic Party. Look at the way the left-leaning press is treating him. Look at the way in which the managerial class and the Democratic Party even has now begun to hang him out to dry. The Hunter Biden corruption saga. Why is that only coming out now? Why is even the other aspects of Biden's frailties that have been visible for a long time only now being taken seriously by the media as his polling numbers crater? The fact of the matter is they're preparing to move him to one side, but they're doing it with a special twist. They're baiting Republicans into focusing on defeating Biden when they know that's a false target. It's like a feigned retreat in warfare, what they call a feint. Lead the enemy to a false target only to actually ensure that they should have gone in a different direction that they didn't. That's exactly what's happening, and I want to make sure we Republicans don't fall into that trap this time around. Criticizing Biden is easy. We need to level up and offer an actual vision of our own. What do we stand for irrespective of who the Democratic nominee is? Forget Biden's age. Forget even his individual frailties. Put that to one side. A nation without borders is not a nation. We pursue excellence in the United States of America. That's who we are. We embrace economic growth instead of apologizing for it. We're proud of being citizens of this nation. We take care of our veterans. We actually make sure that we take care of our own in this country instead of sending our military to defend somebody else's border halfway around the world. These are core principles that we need to articulate regardless of who that other nominee from the Democrat Party really is. And if we do that, we're going to have an election in a landslide that delivers Donald Trump to the White House with the same mandate or greater that Ronald Reagan did. I think we can get there. I'm confident we will. But we can't fall into the trap the other side has laid to just criticize Biden as an agenda only after they're going to bait and switch their nominee in the summer.
Now, here's the thing with that. Like, I understand what he's saying, and Rogan's been saying that for so long. Little do people know, right? Newsom has always been the one. Newsom is who Joe Rogan keeps talking about. Before it was Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama actually just announced she is not running for president. She actually made that announcement because I guess she's been hounded with it so much. She actually came forward and was like, I am not running for president. So there's that. But here's the thing with what Vivek's saying. Who else are you going to focus on? He's saying don't fall for the trap of focusing on Biden. Well, in terms of the media cycle and how it works, everyone's just going to focus on Biden because he's the one that's there. And the second that he's gone and someone else is announced, they'll focus on him. Let's say that by chance it was Newsom, right? Let's just say it was Newsom that ends up stepping in for Biden. How, if it's Newsom, then you can't pick on him now. You can't pick on him now and be like, you're going to be a bad president. You're going to be a bad president. Although I do think that's what Tucker Carlson did when he interviewed that gentleman who claimed all those things about Obama. I feel like Tucker was preemptively being like, if that's where it's going, let me hit you with a scandal before you even come out. I do think Tucker did that. But what are you going to do with Newsom right now? You can't really do anything. You can't just outright. Here's the thing. If you start interviewing him and you start picking at him, you're kind of putting him in position without even realizing it. So you have to kind of just focus on whoever it is, which is Biden, until Biden's not there. That's what you have to do. There's no, or else maybe it's not even Newsom and it's somebody else. You have no idea. So you have to actually know who it is before you start pointing out somebody else. And honestly, with what Vivek's saying, in regards to Republicans, everybody should just be focused on Trump anyway. Forget about which building you're going to tear down. There's a Trump Tower right now. Just focus on that. Ask what you can do in there. Clean a room or two. You know what I mean? Get the immigrants from outside the place. You know, do your part there. Don't focus on which building that you're going to tear down. Just focus on the one that's already built up. You have a guy. You have the guy. Focus on that guy and come together. That would be better than anything about laying a trap or going after Newsom or focusing on Biden. Focus on Trump. He's there. And he is more than likely going to win unless something happens. Something to him or something, something gets mailed in, that kind of thing. But guys, that's all I got for you for today. That was the Trump update, the Trump documentary, if you will. And if you like that, please hit that subscribe button, like the episode, share. It helps tremendously. Other than that, I'm out.